Happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of Cases That Should Have Gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. Today, we're talking about mandatory alcohol screening. Cases that should have gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. When the criminal code was amended in December 2018, one of the things that the government brought into force was random breath testing. Anybody can be pulled over and given a breathalyzer test by the police there at the roadside without the police having to form even so much as a suspicion that there's alcohol in a person's body. Many people, including myself, expressed serious concerns about the constitutionality of this process. And unsurprisingly, after the law came into force and effect, constitutional challenges began popping up in every province and territory across the country. In Saskatchewan, one such constitutional challenge made it all the way to the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal. And in that case, Mr. Wright was charged with impaired driving after the result of a mandatory breath test, and the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal had to consider whether or not the mandatory alcohol testing regime was constitutional. In an interesting split decision from the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal, two judges found that it wasn't constitutional, but the legislation was saved by Section 1 of the Charter, which allows reasonable limits on the rights that individuals have that are justified in a free and democratic society, essentially under what is commonly known as the Oakes test. One judge, however, found that the matter was not saved by Section 1, that the law was unconstitutional and it should be struck down. Unfortunately, because of the split, Mr. Wright was not successful in his challenge. And this case was then sought for leave to the Supreme Court of Canada, who denied leave, which is wild to me, because this case appears to meet the perfect recipe for what a Supreme Court of Canada decision should be. An issue of national importance. It has the potential to affect millions of people across the country, any licensed driver and any unlicensed driver as well. And it is something where there is a split decision from an appellate court. Even though there are appellate and superior courts across the various provinces that agree, that doesn't mean that the Supreme Court of Canada should ignore it. Because of the national importance component and because of the split at the Court of Appeal, this is really the types of cases we expect to be granted leave. And yet, it was not. And it's unfortunate because this case not only meets the requirements clearly for a case that should have been granted leave by the Supreme Court of Canada and wasn't, it's also a case that touches on the rights that each and every one of us have. It's a slippery slope often that we see when the government starts to eliminate your rights in different areas where there is general public consensus those things are bad. When we eliminate the rights of people charged in sexual assault trials, when we eliminate the rights of people who are under investigation for impaired operation, as we slowly whittle away the constitutional guarantees that we expect in a free and democratic society by raising our hands and crying public safety, then we have a real concern about the erosion of these rights as the public safety narrative continues to justify further and further infringements. And that's the big concern that arises out of this, that police can conduct a search, can detain an individual, and can suspend their right to counsel, all without any basis to think they even so much as did something wrong. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court of Canada really missed the boat here, and it's unlikely we'll ever see another case seeking leave to the Supreme Court of Canada to challenge the constitutionality of random breath testing. This is probably the end of the road. Cases that should have gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cases That Should Have Gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. I'm Kyla Lee at Acumen Law Corporation. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.